Welcome to Map Your Mind, where borders blur and the heartbeat of nations echoes through time. Today, we journey to a land where oceans meet, where deserts and savannas collide with cities and struggle, and where humanity's deepest sorrows and highest hopes have both taken root. This is the story of South Africa. Long before the first maps were drawn, South Africa was already ancient, a cradle of early human life. In the caves of Sterkfontein, archaeologists uncovered the bones of our distant ancestors. This land has held human footsteps for over 2 million years. The San and Khoikhoi peoples were among the first known inhabitants, living as hunter-gatherers and pastoralists in harmony with the land. Then came the Bantu migrations from the north, spreading agriculture, ironwork, and new cultures across the southern plains. These migrating peoples gave rise to great kingdoms, among them the powerful Zulu, Xhosa, and Tswana nations. They built complex societies, wove oral histories, and defended their lands with unbreakable pride. But in the 1400s, sails crested the horizon. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to round the Cape of Good Hope, but it was the Dutch who stayed. In 1652, Jan van Riebeeck established a supply station in what would become Cape Town. Thus began the Dutch Cape Colony. With colonization came the displacement of native people, the introduction of slavery, and the slow reshaping of a continent. In the 1800s, the British arrived, wresting control from the Dutch and igniting conflict that would last generations. Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch settlers, migrated inland during the Great Trek, clashing with indigenous kingdoms along the way. The mighty Zulu Empire rose to meet them, led by the fierce and brilliant Shaka Zulu, whose military innovations left a mark on African warfare. Then came gold and diamonds. Wealth buried deep in the earth drew greed and war. The Anglo-Zulu War, the Boer Wars. Empires collided violently, and in 1910, the Union of South Africa was born under British dominion, but deeply segregated. In 1948, apartheid was made law, a brutal system of racial separation and white supremacy. Black South Africans were stripped of land, of voice, of movement. Townships swelled, oppression deepened, but resistance never died. Voices rose. Songs were sung in secret. Strikes, protests, underground movements gathered strength. And at the center stood a name the world would never forget: Nelson Mandela. For 27 years, he was imprisoned on Robben Island. But even behind bars, his spirit lit the world. By the 1980s, South Africa stood on a knife's edge. International sanctions squeezed. Revolution brewed. And finally, in 1990, Mandela was freed. 4 years later, South Africa held its first multiracial democratic elections. Nelson Mandela became president, and a new era was born. The journey since then has not been simple. The wounds of apartheid run deep. Poverty and inequality still haunt the land. But the dream of the Rainbow Nation endures. South Africa pulses with life, from the jazz rhythms of Soweto to the quiet dignity of the Drakensberg Peaks. Its 11 official languages reflect a kaleidoscope of cultures: Zulu, Xhosa, Afrikaans, English, Sotho, and more, each one a thread in the nation's living fabric. Cape Town rises between sea and mountain. Johannesburg hums with ambition and artistry, and Kruger National Park reminds the world of its wild, untamed beauty. South Africa is a land of paradox, of hardship and joy, of shadow and sunrise. It is a place that fell, rose, and still rises. Fun fact, South Africa is the only country in the world to have hosted the soccer, rugby, and cricket World Cups, and it's home to the largest visible crater on Earth. The Vredefort Dome formed over 2 billion years ago. This is South Africa, a land of courage, rhythm, and relentless hope. Where will your mind travel next?